A comp-only listing is defined as a sale that is procured before the listing is entered in Matrix. It's entered after the fact, so the property can be used as a comp by other MLS users. A comp only can occur when you sell a listing that was not entered in our MLS. In order to enter the comp sold listing, you'll want to go to Input and select Listing Input, then select Add New. From here, you'll want to go to the bottom of the screen and be certain to select Residential Comp Sold Input. And you'll want to fill from realist tax, which of course is the system default, so you don't need to change anything here. And then of course you'll select the county where the listing was sold and enter the street number and name. And you just want to ensure that you have pulled the correct property. Once you do that, then you can go ahead and select Fill. Now, the main thing that makes this different from entering a traditional residential listing, you will find different tabs across the top portion of the screen. As we enter the General tab, we see that a lot of the information has already been entered. You'll want to be sure on the General tab, all of the fields that you see in the bold print that are underlined, you want to make sure that you fill those in. Those are required fields. So, for example, unlisted property ID number, yes or no. We're going to say no here. The street name, a lot of information was pulled in from the tax records. You'll want to enter the status type. So oftentimes a comp sold listing is entered because it was new construction and you're working with the builder. Perhaps you were working with a for sale by owner situation or even an office exclusive situation. So you just want to select whichever applies to you. The list price will also be the sold price, so you'll enter that. Be sure and enter again all of the underlined bold fields. So we'll just enter a 0 here. But you want to enter accurate information. Just because this is a comp sold, that's even more of a reason to be sure that you're entering the information accurately so that it can be used for a good, solid quality comp. Now moving on to the Features tab. Again, because we're using this for comp sold, it's very important that we're entering all of the information accurately and following the same rules that we would follow with the rules and regulations for any listing that we're entering. The Financial tab is going to include a lot of the same information that you would typically see. You would enter any tax district that might apply, whether the homestead exemption was used in the previous tax year, and then of course enter whether or not it was a foreign investor or if it was subject to lease. That takes us to the Compensation tab, and this is where you'd enter the compensation just as if you were the listing agent. So whatever those numbers might have been, you would go ahead and enter them accordingly. Was this a foreclosed listing? You would enter that, whether or not it's a short sale, and of course whether or not it's an auction listing. The close information. This is where it's going to pull in the address, and this is where you're entering the information. The transaction took place, so you would enter the correct pending date. You would enter the correct close date, the sale price, the sold financing type, cash sale, conventional loan, whatever the case may be. Any seller concessions, the amount of those concessions, and then we come to the selling agent. You are the selling agent. This is where you'll enter your MLS ID number. If you have a co-selling agent, you can enter that here. Once you enter that information, if you click on refresh, then it will automatically populate the listing for you. You'll come to the Optional Fields tab. I highly recommend that you go ahead and enter this information. It's called Optional Fields, but again, you're entering this for comp purposes, so this information is really important for you and for other MLS users. When they're pulling comps, it's going to be important to have this information. And then we'll go back to the very first tab, to the Status tab. Now you'll want to save this listing as incomplete and then go ahead and click on Submit Listing. You'll find that you will get an MLS ID number. So now you need to contact your broker and have your broker close out the sale for you. If your broker is not available, then go ahead and contact the MLS. We will need supporting documentation from the closing of the transaction in order to complete the comp-only entry for you.